Hey friends, I'm Indycar Dad, and I try to make watching Indycar as fun as possible. It's the off season, so I've spent some time reading the rule book, so you don't have to read the rule book. And one thing I want to talk about today is testing. I read all of the rules for testing, and I think I can explain them to you fairly succinctly. We'll also talk about what has recently happened through the test process and why guys like Felippe Nasr, Ralph Schumacher, Caio Collett, and those people are here and testing cars and what it all means. So let's talk about testing. The teams are limited in how many test days they have. A test day is like a whole day at the track, and they're very, very valuable and they're very scarce. So, and there's a lot of rules around them. So the main thing is there's something called open tests. Open tests allow any of the teams to go to 2 tests a year. One of those tests is in Sebring in February. They don't race at Sebring, but it's a bumpy track, and they like to do some evaluation there. And the second test they do is at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in April. And that's a very important test as well. So all teams are invited. The leader circuit teams are actually required to attend. So that's 2 days. The next thing people get is they get 2 additional team days. And so that means the whole team can go there. If you only sent one car, that's all you're getting, I think. So if you were full-time last year, you did 12 or more races, you get 2 team days. If you're a new team, like Primo was last year, they can also get 2 team days. But if you're a part-time team, you don't get any. So those are days that you can go to the track and analyze stuff. The interesting thing is you're not allowed to go to the track by yourself. So if you want to do a test at, say, Barber Motorsports Park, you have to tell all the other teams that you've rented Barber out, and then they get to choose if they want to go or not. You can't just go rent a track and not tell anybody about it. It has to be public, and you have to make it open to the other teams to run while you're running. So interesting stuff. There's also one more test day if you do something called a driver evaluation test. This is where you're going to take sort of a driver that you want to find out if he's good in IndyCar, or you can game the system and use the driver evaluation test to collect data. And we'll talk about how guys like Felippe Nasr, who's a Formula 1 driver and a great sports car driver and works for Penske, he comes and does a driver evaluation test, even though they're not evaluating Felippe Nasr to run IndyCar. They're using him because they got 5 sets of tires that day, and they're going to have him do some sort of test procedure. So other times you'd use driver evaluation is like Ralph Schumacher. You know, Ralph's a big name, right? Ray Hall Letterman would love a big name driver, and they'd love to use that guy to attract sponsors. So by having him do an evaluation test, especially at IMS Road course, you bring a lot of attention to the team, and that hopefully catches the eye of sponsors, and you can work some business deals that way. So that's not just evaluating the driver, that's evaluating like the whole process of, is that driver going to be great? So that's an important test day, and you'll see teams use it in various ways. There's also rookie tests. If you're going to be a rookie next year, and you're going to run a certain number of races, I think it's 10 or 12, you get 2 additional test days. So these are valuable, but they're also telling. So let's talk about Caio Collett. Caio Collett tested at Mid-Ohio, right? So that could have been a driver evaluation test. He was in the Foyt car, and they could have been like, hey, let's try him out. But then he also tested at the IMS test. So at this point, the only way Caio could have tested those 2 times is if he's using the second test as one of his rookie test days. So he basically is now going to be required, and Foyt is going to be required to run him a certain number of races this year. So so basically everyone in the paddock, when they saw that, realized Caio Collett's going to be in the Foyt car this year. So otherwise, there's going to be some issues. So these are tests that happen at the end of the season. During the season, teams get to test an Indy Next driver 1 test day, but it has to happen during the season. So that's why you'll see like a Miles Rowe or someone like that in a car during that part of the season. This also explains why you saw James Rowe in a Junco's car at IMS. It's not that they really need him, it's that they get to test him for free. So if they put one of their drivers, like Arenas VK, in the car, that would have been a rookie test. I mean, a team test day, and they would have blown a test day, which would be important. So instead, they got a rookie or evaluation driver to do it. So there's not much else additional testing. Firestone can do tire tests, and they don't have to invite all of the teams. So a while back, they were doing some tire evaluations, and they were inviting just Penske and just McLaren and just Ganassi, just Andretti. So teams like, Rahal and teams like Junco's weren't getting those test days, and the other teams were. I think that's not quite fair, but IndyCar sometimes will do a tire evaluation test if they're worried about like an oval with a certain tire, and they'll spread the testing over more teams. Whereas when Firestone does it, they're only required to invite two cars. There is a limit to how many times they can do it, but so it doesn't get too out of hand. The other time you can get track time in an IndyCar is if you have a media circus day you want to do. Like Ganassi had Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen come by or something last year, Red Bull drivers, and drive an IndyCar. So they got sort of a free day, but I don't think they get the tires and all the telemetry to work with, so I don't think it really works out very well as a test day. If you want to do straight line testing or you want to do wind tunnel testing with a full scale IndyCar, that counts against the test days, so I don't think you see too much of that happening. If you have an injured driver, say like Simon Pagenaud after his crash, you could get a test day to run him. You can't run one of the races that's upcoming, racetracks that's upcoming, so you couldn't do it like on a Thursday, but you can evaluate him to make sure everything's okay. And then some testing is unlimited. A scale model, wind tunnels, and stationary test rigs, which are things they have in the lab, as long as the wheels don't turn, those are allowed without limit. So those will be used for like damper development, that type of thing. So this kind of explains some things that have happened recently in testing, like Felippe Nasr, Mick Schumacher, Caio Collett was an interesting thing. We've learned something because of the rules and what they did over there, which was unusual. But guys like Lockie Hughes and James Rowe, they got basically a free test day. The team, Andretti or Junco's, got to run those guys without burning a test day. So I think that makes sense for them. But an interesting thing that happened was ECR racing was at IMS Road course with Rasmussen and Alexander Rossi, and those are their drivers. So they actually burned a test day for the next season at IMS Road course just recently. So unusual, the only team to do that. No other teams have used up a team test day so far. So that might put them behind the 8 ball next year. Anyway, I'm reading the rule book, so you don't have to. So that explains some of the testing going on. So you'll see some unusual drivers evaluated, even though there's no evaluation needed. Ganassi has their drivers locked up next year. Penske has their drivers locked up next year. Ganassi seems to have sold their Mid-Ohio ride to Niels Coolin, who I can't even believe is allowed in an IndyCar. And Penske, on the other hand, took it very seriously, got Felippe Nasr in there, and I'm sure they ran a great test process with that. So there you go. Thanks for watching. I'm IndyCar Dad. Subscribe and get into the fun of IndyCar. But sometimes the fun is following what's happening and trying to read into it and see what's going on.